Our next session is on continuous testing in DevOps by Soumya Mukherjee. He's a mentor at Lego Bots. I guess Soumya, are you there already? Have you onboarded?
Yeah, hi Lalit. Hi.
Hi, so I see Kung Fu Panda. Nice to see you, Soumya. Now the stage is yours as soon as you start sharing your screen.
Sure, I'll do it. Can you hear me properly?
Perfectly fine.
All right. So I'll share my entire screen because I need it. Okay.
Super, we see you.
Okay. Cool. So, hi friends. Good evening. Good morning. Good afternoon. I know you guys have joined us from a lot of countries, and first of all, I would like to thank you guys to come and hear us out. Tribal Conference is the best conference, I would say, hosted by my friends, the part of my family now. Uh, and amazing people. The lineup of speakers had been amazing. Uh, Today, the talk that I am going to do uh, is on continuous testing in DevOps. But I was just wondering, I had gone through all the talks since morning, and I say that, uh, all the people have covered everything what I have to say. So let's see what I have in place. The agenda for this particular talk is to understand what is continuous testing, and later on in this particular presentation, I would also show you a quick demo because I want you guys to go and practice it. It's very simple, and I will show you, how you can basically, get it on board. Coming back to my experience, before I start, I do write mentor of Legobots, but it's my passion to basically mentor a lot of people. So in all my weekends have just gone through in mentoring. I had been a co-founder of a couple of consulting companies before. Now I work for an investment bank. Unfortunately, I can't take their name. Hence, I have written Mentor Legobots. I'm mentoring this company. This company is into conversational AI, and we are doing some interesting stuff there. Um, so let's start. Okay. So first of all, let's understand what is continuous testing. There are a lot of myths around. Okay, some says that it's uh, it's a coding practice. Some says that some says that when to do it. Some says that okay, I don't know about it. Okay, so let's see how it works. Works. So I won't term it as a practice. I would say it's a reliability engineering practice. It's a practice. It's a framework. Okay, which basically helps you to basically automate at every stage. So what it is basically all about is that you basically test throughout your entire pipeline, starting from your dev to ops. Um, if you want to do continuous testing and you want to ensure that you want to catch your bugs faster, or you may have seen this and hear this buzzwords saying that start early in the cycle, shift left, right? One of the practices to basically get your bugs, get your bugs caught really at the start of a development process. Overall, if you look at it, we used to know this terminology wherein people used to always say that test early, test early. Why test early? Because you will save time and money. Okay, we know that the cost of fixing a defect is quite large at the end of your cycle. So we start early, okay, and we continuously test our software as and when there is a build that has build happens. and that's what is whole about continuous testing practices. Um, Coming back to why continuous testing, like I said, if you want to move towards shift left, you want faster time to market. Now, what does that mean? When I say faster time to market, is when your development people, pushing their code continuously, okay, and you want that piece of code to basically be available to your customers. So that is how your continuous testing, your continuous delivery deployment pipeline helps you to basically attain that particular thing. I was reading through a couple of articles, and I know that Amazon had been doing fantastic work. The availability of a feature into the market is less than 10 seconds, and that's how fast they deliver things to the customers. um, why continuous testing? If you want to have quick real-time feedback on builds, okay, I always tell this story to a lot of people that why do you need Jenkins, or why do you need a CI tool? Okay, let's go through some basics. And if you look at it, say for an example, my dev people are in US, I'm in India. They're pushing the code from there. I'm testing it from here. There is a huge gap of time that is there, and because of which, what happens? They push their code. I come to my office, and I start seeing, okay, there's a push that has happened. Okay, let me run my sanity test and see if things are running fine, if the build is proper, and I find out there is a defect. Okay, and I say that, okay, fine, no, I can't accept this for my testing. I write an email and I shoot it back to the developers. Now they come back again after 10 hours. So what, if you look at it, there's a lot of time waste that we are doing in the entire cycle. And that's where the CI tools or the CI concepts came into the picture, to basically things roll faster in the development process. And that's where we also have this practice of continuous testing. Um, Obviously, if you want to push your updates uh, into the production directly, you would basically use this terminology called as continuous deployment. So it's one of the practice in CI/CD, and a D again. I call it a CI/CD. Okay, delivery deployments. Is what is continuous testing. I won't spend a lot of time here because I want to show you a quick demo on how to play with the continuous the pipelines and everything. This is the typical flow that I always tell it to the folks, and this obviously is not the portion of it, but if you look at it, it starts with the dev team. It has its own build process. There is a static code analysis thing, static code analysis which needs to be run on this particular build, and then those unit tests needs to be run. Okay, simultaneously the test team is also committing to your version control system. Okay, there are a lot of tests that happens as soon as the build comes out. So if you look at it, what happens is that there are reliability engineering factors like static code analysis, and then you basically instrument your code and also try to find out the code coverage of it. All this helps you to basically catch your defects faster in the cycle. Uh, so as soon as you finish this particular process, you can basically come up with your regression tests and run your smoke tests. Okay, you can also run your functional automation tests in your pipeline. Okay, you can also check your security vulnerability. You can use SonarQube, you can use Fortify. There are a lot of tools which you can use for security scanning. The whole of the problem statements are like, everybody is testing. There's one big problem right now in continuous testing is analytics. Probably tomorrow there is one talk which talks about analytics, and I think it would be quite interesting to hear what the speaker has to say. But whole of this continuous testing problem statement is that there is a static code analysis tool running, there is a code coverage tool running, there is Selenium test running, there is Rest Assured to test running, but overall, okay, if you look at it, there is no dashboard or analytics, okay, that is there in place to basically capture all this data. Okay, so coming back to this, if you look at the continuous flow, we start with a unit test, static code analysis tools, and then functional tests, non-functional tests, then pre-production continuous monitoring that you do, and there are a lot of tools that are available to basically manage and maintain this. For testing, we use Selenium, Docker, Kubernetes, like the earlier speakers have mentioned, Selenium Grid with Terraform, and Shama has mentioned, how to scale up and down. These are nothing but the components of continuous testing. We uh, also can code your deployment, practice, and we call it as deployment automation as well. Not spending too much time. A couple of things which I wanted to discuss out here is, what are the key components of CI? Okay, we talk about first thing that we talk about is called as culture. Okay, because there has to be a culture to write your tests when your developers have started writing code. There is a practice which we call as a TDD, and what would happen is that you would get better structured code. You will catch a lot of defects early in the cycle, and you will have a bit of stable program. Then you will also have the second second component, which is very vital, is test at each stage. When I say test at each stage, it means that you would need to test it at unit level, integration level, your system level, your pre-prod level, prod level, all the levels. At each level, you have to basically see your expected outcomes of the software is in place or not. Um, Third is third component of CI is automation. Okay, what do we call it? Automation is that you reduce the manual interventions, and you increase your automation. Like repeatability is one of the major problem in manual, and then that's why you need automation tools to overcome that. Uh, the next component, which is very vital in CI, is your comprehensive coverage. Now, most of the times I see that people do write a lot of tests, and lot of tests. But as Rahul was also mentioning, that you need not to have too many GUI tests, right? So what you can have is that you can have a comprehensive set uh, of tests which basically cover your OS, your browsers, your different devices. Okay, and at a minimum level. So minimal level, we call it as an optimized level. Uh, uh, the next component, which is vital in a CI, is your scaling up and scaling down of the testing infrastructure. As Shama mentioned, in her earlier talk, and how she showed, how you can scale up and down. Okay, that is how things needs to be done in your CI pipeline. And last, not the least, it's highly important to have analytics in place to basically understand what's happening in your CI pipeline, what tests are running, what are the outcomes, and what not. So these are some key components of continuous integration practice. I call it as reliability engineering practices. Some of the engineering thoughts before we go and see a demo. You need to keep your test green. Okay, uh, that means, okay, people may also ask me a lot of questions. I know about it, but then if you want to keep your test green, you need to write more and more tests to make your test screen, right? There may be pieces of software which 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 is not tested, which may lead to bug. You write, we keep on writing tests, and reduce the number of exceptions that are coming in. Um, Make release decision automatically, right? This is very important. That's where the concept of continuous deployment come into the picture, and wherein the continuous delivery, which is a manual piece to put it into production, is automated and put it into deployment. So you use tools like Chef, Puppet, Ansible in your CI pipeline to basically do this particular thing. um, you need to basically have tests which are, I would say, has a quick feedback loop. Like, I would say that you should have a subset of tests which basically, obviously, from your regression back, and which basically make sure that your environment is stable enough to continue testing. So that is the reason we call it as ready for build tests. Okay, so that you have tighter loops, and that's how the whole game is. Uh, in a nutshell, you need to test faster. You need to have your tests green, and that's the whole concept of continuous integration. Let's do a quick demo. Let's see how it works. How it works. Okay, and I hope I have time. All right. So. So this is my Jenkins. I did set up in my localhost, and I wanted to show you how simple it is to set up something on your machine. You may need not require those fancy infrastructure to learn, but obviously to scale at a production level, obviously you need those servers and power, computing power. Um, Let me go and talk about this particular thing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to show you something which is this particular pipeline, which is like, I'm pulling my tests, I'm spinning up my Docker containers, okay, and I'm building my test code, I'm running my tests and destroying my containers, okay. And what I'm right now using is, I'm having my Selenium tests, and I would like to basically run it on multiple browsers, obviously. But there are two ways to do it. Is that you can have your Eclipse open, you can run it through Eclipse, or you can run it through command line, which will basically opens up two browsers. But how to do it more efficiently in a more elegant way? So the structure of this particular thing is that there are two things which are very, very important here. One is your Jenkins file. I emphasize more on Jenkins file, okay, where you can basically create a pipeline. I'll show you how the structure of the pipeline is, okay. And then let me open it. I have my code committed in GitHub repo. You can use this thing. So what it does, it basically pulls up the test code, and then what it does, it basically calls a Docker Compose file. This called Docker Compose file. What it does, it basically reads to the file. In that particular file, it has been said that, okay, go to the Docker hub, get Selenium hub, get your Selenium hub container, get your Chrome and Firefox container, make it in a network so that it runs as a master slave kind of an structure, and run my test. Okay, so I would also show you how the Docker Compose file looks like. But what we do here is that we define different stages, okay, for Jenkins to understand. We tell Jenkins that, okay, please build a pipeline for me, and in that pipeline I need to have different stages, and in that I have different sub stages, which is nothing but pulling up the latest code, running up a build process. And if you look at it, these are very, very standard commands which you may be running in your own projects, okay. And once the test finishes, just remove the Docker components, and that's how it is. Now, if I go back, if I show you the Docker Compose file, in Docker Compose files, it's written in a very simple thing. It says run services for hub, bring in the container for hub, bring in the container for Chrome, and then look hub as your master, and similarly bring another container for Firefox. This is how the Docker Compose. So internally what happens, this Jenkins file is being committed inside my test code, okay? And what I do basically in Jenkins configurations is I go to my, and it's very simple, right? You just need to create a pipeline job in Jenkins and just mention this repository URL here, okay? And you just need to select your pipeline script for SCM. So what it would do, it basically picks up your test code from your Git and search for this file, Jenkins file. It will start running this Jenkins file, and in the process what it would do is it obviously picks up from the master, and what it do is it basically create this particular uh, pipeline. So if I go here, um, if I go here, I can see that I have a pipeline which basically has pulling the latest code, spinning up the Docker images, building up the code. So what it would do here, it would run this particular Docker Compose. And if you look at it, what it does, it basically brings in the container and start the Selenium hub and nodes. It will build my test code. It will run my tests. So what would happen is it will bring in all the dependencies. It's in Maven project, and it will run all my tests here. And what it would do, it will destroy all the containers after that. It will stop the containers for me. Another example which I wanted to show you is that this is fine somewhere, but this only single pipeline. I would like to run in your diagram. You showed that you're running parallelly your UI tests, your API tests, right? So how can I do that? So what you can do is you can basically, and this is just an example, and I wanted to show it in my editor, is that I have created a pipeline, okay, which says that I have stages and I have an internal stage as build, and I have a stage called as test, but in that I am having a tag called as parallel, and in that parallel I can define my stages as well. So what it would do is that under test, it will basically create uh, uh, a job of UI test, API test, security tests, and finally, if there is a deployment, it can happen. You can customize this. You can basically add conditions like if my build fails, what would happen, how to email my test report. There are a lot of configurations, but I just wanted to show today very simple stuff because of the lack of time. This generally a talk of an hour or so. But what now would happen here is that when we go here into configure, and what I've done is rather than pulling up the things out of Git, I've hard coded this here. Okay, the pipeline script, and now how it looks like is like this. Okay, it basically looks like this. It says, okay, there's a build process and there are UI tests, and you remember there's a tag called as parallel. So as soon as I put parallel, it basically creates 3 lines here. Okay, and likewise. So in my earlier experience, we have built this complex pipeline wherein uh, we have extensively used Packer, we have used Artifactory to bring in a lot of things, and we have to do parallel tasks. And this Jenkins file has helped us immensely. Okay, so if I say run this, how it looks like is, so it basically build it, it quickly tests it, and it just deploys. So that's how it runs. Another run which I can just show you quickly is the one which I showed you for this. So let's go to Blue Ocean and let me run. And what it does, it would now do, it will start pulling up the latest code. It will start spinning up my Docker containers, and it will start doing the build, the tests, and then destroy the infrastructure. Um, so that's how it is. Now, if I look at here,
Soumya, we have 5 minutes for question and answer.
yeah, just give me a minute.
Mhm.
So if I look here, I have nodes available. So this would be pretty fast. Yes, it has already spinned up, and now it is doing my build. So we can take up questions. This would run in background, and as soon as we finish, you know,
Sounds good. So we have first question from Sharon. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. So where, how in your experience is exploratory testing fitting in this whole continuous testing process for DevOps?
okay, very good question. I would say that when I spoke about test at each stage, and when I talk about unit tests and different types of tests, integration, system test, one of the tests is your exploratory test. Okay, you cannot. What I have said is that you can minimize the manual effort by putting up automation, but you cannot eradicate manual testing. That's the key, because my code can't think like human. Okay, so automation expertise is required. However, one of the key component is exploratory testing that has to be done in your CI pipeline. I hope I answered your question.
Cool. We have another question from Sanjeev. So what are your thoughts on using Blue Ocean plugin for UI personalization and CD pipelines?
See, Blue Ocean is a fantastic plugin. It basically gives me a very good visualization. There may be other plugins available, but I extensively use Blue Ocean for all my work. What you can also do is that you can also write a wrapper, or you can also call Jenkins APIs to create your own visualization if you want to. But Blue Ocean is a standard plugin across industry.
Cool. Another question, in parallel test, if any test, for example, in your example, some of if your test fails, then will the deployment go through?
Obviously not. Obviously not. What we do is basically, and in our best practices that we do, is that we basically measure threshold. Okay, so for an example, what we do right now in our group, and based upon my experience, what we do is that as soon as, say for an example, you have 1,000 tests and 800 passed and 200 failed, right? You put up a mechanism, and to understand or classify your test exceptions, whether it is due to scripts, due to probably an environment, due to an exception that you have got in the application, right? And based on that, you can add threshold into your pipe. You say that, okay, if of my test pass 1% fails, I still can go ahead and do it. Okay, but it's your call. Obviously, you need to understand the criticality of the error that is coming in your pipeline. For us, what we have done so far is we have added a threshold, and it still goes in. Obviously, most of the people do not do, and it is not is retries. Okay, if my test doesn't run due to some reason, I do test. So that's a best practice that we should add basic is for, and also rerun my test again and again. So you can in Gradle, it is very simple to build a plugin.
Okay, I'm not sure if there is a network issue from my side or your end, Soumya. Is everybody
Okay.
able? Okay, cool. Now you're back.
Yes. Or did I miss? Okay. Okay. So what I was trying to say is, and I quickly will wrap this up. Yeah, it's because so what I'm trying to say is that we add thresholds, okay, into our tests, into a continuous pipeline. And if you say that, say 99% of my tests pass, 1% doesn't fail, I'll still go through. But there is one best practice which we do not follow, as Rahul mentioned today, that after 6 months of time you will not even remember what framework you have written, right? So what we write is, one of the things that we need to write is retries. So if my test fails, I go and retry rerunning it, and I basically classify my errors, be it an environment problem, an object not found problem, or a script problem. Likewise, you can classify them and then take a call whether you need to go ahead or not.
All right, Soumya, thank you for a very interesting session. I would say we take a hard break now. There are some follow-up questions that you can take up in your dedicated channel on Slack. Thank you so much for being with us today, and I wish you a great time ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lalit. Thank you for hosting.